I come from Argentina, and I will talk a little bit about the government there, because I think it's as an example of something that is happening in the whole world, and that is this revival of far-right movements and far-right politics, and that they have seeped onto right parties or traditional parties or conservative parties, and are not only circumscribed to far right, like it happened here, that CDU wanted to complicate things for asylum here, and this was a politic that could have come directly from the AfD. It was presented by the CDU, and so that's like an example of how the far-right agenda is being taken from other political organizations that do not necessarily comply with this idea of far-right. And as such, I think that there's a global agenda of these far-right organizations that has to do with constructing an enemy and making an enemy out of migrant people and out of queer LGBT people and out of gender-oriented politics and gender-oriented discussions. So I think that they have, in a way, constructed a very easy discourse to name who are the people we should be against, and they put us against each other. And they do this so that we are constantly fighting amongst ourselves, and we cannot build solidarity and burn bridges between different organizations and different struggles. And in that way, they are isolating us and creating this idea that we are the evil of the world. And so that hinders a lot of advancements that we had in the last years. But that, in a way, we should discuss how far these positive advances went, really, because if it's so easy to say things like what Javier Milei said in the Davos conference recently, that things like that there are no femicides, because if we did that, we are considering differently men and women, and that's why it's not egalitarian. And so if it's possible to say that for a political leader in such a position as a president of a country, in a conference where others didn't discuss that, that means we hadn't really understood that as a society. So I think these kinds of governments and organizations are trying to build these enemies, internal enemies, and put us to fight against each other. That's why what I believe is very important from transfeminism and movements in general, queer movements, LGBT movements, political organizations, that we come together and we fight this idea. And if we have to explain things again, that's okay, but we also have to take action. Against these sayings from Milei in Davos, there was a huge organization of the transfeminist movements, of LGBT movements, that started building assemblies throughout Argentina the day after or the week after these sayings were uttered. And they built like a huge movement and a very big demonstration in the whole country. And we, as migrants living in Germany, we decided to mirror that here. And the same day, that was the 1st of February, we did a very big demonstration here. Why I'm talking about this? It's because I think it's very important that we keep together and that we build these bridges while they are trying to burn bridges and saying things like, oh, the migration is a problem because they destroyed Europe, which is something that Milei said in this conference. We say, no, that's not how it goes. And we are keeping together and we are discussing politics together. It's not We have here the lesbians discussing something. We have here the gays discussing something. Trans people have to be here discussing their own identities. And then we have migrants here. And then we have left people here. And like, no, what we have to do is build solidarity and stay together and see how all of our struggles are related. Because I, for example, as a non-binary person, I'm not only part of the trans movement, I'm also a person that is migrant in Europe. I'm also a left-wing person. I also think that capitalism is not the answer to our lives, and it's not the best model that we could build. And I also think that it's not okay, for example, for powerful countries to be trying to rule out what happens in other countries or what happens in territories, like, for example, what Israel has been doing in Gaza with the support of the USA and of Germany. So I think all of these struggles, the important aspect would be to keep together. And I think that transfeminist movements in Latin America have something to say about that, because we tend to try to do that. So I think that's like a challenge on the side of, in general, politics, and on the side from the transfeminist movements and LGBT and queer movements, one challenge would be like to keep on building these bridges and not ostracize ourselves and not to fall into traps of for example, me as a trans person, if I could change my identity, my documentation without a lot of problems, and if I can access health and everything, not to say, oh, okay, they have included me, so now I'm fine, I'm not struggling anymore, and then let's forget about the struggles, because that's not how it works. Of course, in these times, I can't say that really that's what is going on, because most of the politics are against this kind of access to health and abortion rights. Another challenge would be to really listen to what the people that are being subjected to certain politics have to say about that. Like, you cannot talk about Gaza without letting the people from Gaza speak. You cannot talk about feminism or transfeminism without the voices of trans people. You cannot talk about LGBT movements without talking to lesbians, gays, bisexuals. You cannot talk about safety if you're only referring to police and you're only referring to wars, or because, yeah, what safety do we have if we don't have access to health, if we don't have access to respect, if we don't have access to anti-discrimination? I think there's a huge need for the left to be united and to have this really real conversations, you know what I mean? Like where we listen to what other people in other parts of the world have to say about extractivism, for example, how that makes people be obliged to migrate. We are all migrants, but it's the same thing when a person is a migrant and has a complicated legal status, or when they migrate to Europe and they have a European passport, or when they are displaced people or refugees. It's not like we are all part of migration, but we are considered differently in the society here. We have to understand this and build solidarity, and sometimes we have to learn to listen. And so I think the experiences that the different kinds of migrants bring, and the people from different backgrounds have to be listened to, or the people that are considered a threat to society because they don't align with their sexual orientation that should be the accepted one, or with the gender identity that is an accepted part of society. You know, there are some countries in the world where if you want to be respected as a trans person, you have to undergo a mandatory chemical intervention with hormones, or like operations and stuff. And it's like, well, we are still building on the same binary, you know, like I am a non-binary person, and most of the people look at me and they think, oh, a woman. And I have to explain, no, but because why are we just assuming stuff? Because there's this very strong idea that a woman looks like this, a man looks like that, and so if you are trans, you have to like try to pass into this or that. And I'm like, I totally agree and support all the people that want to have interventions in their on their bodies, but I don't want. If you don't tell your experiences, you are impoverishing the movement, because most of the people, when they hear what it feels for you or what it feels for certain people, they haven't thought about it, because we are so concentrated on our cell phones, on being workers and getting our salary and being able to maintain our head afloat in a system that is constantly taking away from you and telling you that you should be like this or like that. And if you are not like this or like that, you are complicated. Or, for example, here in Berlin, if you go to a demonstration and manifest and say from the river to the sea, you are illegal, you are like, or you speak and you cannot be in a manifestation speaking your own language, because what's that? And like, I think movements should build a lot on experiences. For us, for example, in the Bloque Latinoamericano, it's a very important thing that transfeminism is a transversal perspective for our politics, and not like we have a small organization of feminists within the movement, and then those talk about gender, while we are the one big men that talk about work. And then we have the people that are brown or black talk about race, and like, you know, racism is everywhere, gender identity is everywhere, everyone has a gender identity, even cis people. And we are all, or most of us are all working class. So how do we forget these things? I think that transversal idea of these experiences and within the political movements is it's crucial. It's a way we learn. From this migrant perspective that we try to build on, and migrant organization, we think it's important to identify needs and organize in surrounding these needs and topics. Like, for example, we have the campaign Anmeldung für alle, because we see that in this country, if you don't have an Anmeldung, you are nobody. These kind of organizations from migrant people should also stick together with working class organizations here in Germany, right? Because we are all part of the same struggle in the end. Last year, we had a gathering here that the Bloque Latinoamericano organized with a travesti activist from Argentina who is called Susie Shock. And what we wanted to discuss there had to do with this idea of transfeminist imagination, because we strongly believe that we cannot build another world if we cannot think about it too, imagine it. Like, it's a very big and sad thing that we are so undermined and we are so oppressed that sometimes we cannot even imagine. Like, it's easier to imagine the end of the world and not the end of capitalism. And this is not an idea that I invented, but I don't remember who said that in this moment. But we were discussing this in this gathering that we organized, because how do we propose another world for the kids that are coming to this world, and we cannot like build an imagination on how we would do things differently. I think an aspect that I like a lot of what I learned in left-wing organizations in Latin America. And we do that also as Bloque Latinoamericano here, is that we cannot be waiting for the day where a revolution stands up and changes things. We have to start doing things differently today and imagining things differently today. And so we talk about this prefigurative politics and like, well, I'm not going to wait until socialism to be kind to other people or to try to help to build solidarity. We have to do it now. So I think it also aids in the imagination of stuff, because if we can start thinking other ways of organizing and how we can discuss and how we can fight against this tendency to right movements today in the world, we need this imagination, and we need trans people, we need Flinta people to take part, but we also need the whole of the society to get involved in these topics, not only sectorialize or like build sections of the society that will discuss an aspect of this. But yeah, I think that imagination plays a very big role, and we need to exercise our imagination. And I mean, we are constantly bombarded with images, with social media, with cell phones, and we are becoming like slaves of these things, which are, on the one hand, very useful, but also very dangerous because we stop imagining stuff. So I think it's good to try to remember that that is an important aspect. And I think transfeminism has done a lot in this aspect, because we are often so discriminated against in society, and so the black sheep, or this idea that we are the problem of society and stuff like that, that sometimes we are ostracized, and we have to build community, and we have to really imagine that things can be differently, because otherwise life is shitty. I think on the topic of imagination, we can say that we have to imagine a different world, and that world has to be a world where a lot of other worlds are possible, and not this idea of homogenization. Like, it's not we want to build another world where we are all the same. It's a world where we can all be ourselves and still be part of a society. There's a lot of people that think that we non-binary people would want is that everyone is non-binary. And I am really not interested in that. I don't care like how you identify yourself as. What I care is that every option has the same validity. And that if you are a cis woman or a cis man or a non-binary person, or you are a travesti, or you are a trans man, or you are a trans woman, or you identify as queer, or whatever you identify as, that there's no default, that we are all accepted as part of the society. I just want to have the same standing in society for every option. Our families built in a way that are not traditional to be called families too. Sometimes families are 3 or 4 friends that build a world together. Well, what's the problem with that, right? Why do we have to accept that we are challenging society with that as a problem? It's okay to challenge society, because that keeps things moving. And change is part of nature. Like, I am a biologist, and you cannot have, like, when things stop changing, they die. In Spanish, we have a difference between an activist and a militant. And militant is usually part of a political organization. An activist can be more like part of a movement, but not really part of a political organization. And something that I learned from new left movements in Argentina since 2000 and 2001, where there was a very big crisis and we had to organize differently. People had to build places where kids could eat because there was no food and stuff like this. And I learned this idea of prefiguration from these kind of organizations that, you know, you have to take the reins in hand and start doing things because we cannot wait. And I also think I learned through different political movements throughout Latin America that there's also not a revolution that you reach one day and then everything is like, okay, we lay to rest because things are done. Revolution is something that you build every day. And the same works for transfeminism. Transfeminism and feminism is not something that, we already reached this stage where we think that it's not okay to kill women because they are women, or it's not okay to discriminate on trans people, and that's it. And we can just rest assured that our rights are there. Our rights are always in danger because we are a menace to a capitalist society, because the capitalist society is organized in this idea of a traditional family which has a sexual division on care, a sexual division on roles within the family, and you become like a cell unit, like the smallest cell unit of the society that then has to work so that if it works, capitalism can go on. And even if a lot of things have changed, what happens is that sometimes you win some rights, and then capitalism has a lot of imagination too, because they find ways to take these discourses in their own discourse and how to build this idea that, okay, but nothing challenges the system really. So, okay, you want to have an abortion. Well, now it's fine, you can have an abortion, but then suddenly it's not fine again. So that's the whole thing. And also, I think class struggle is the same. Like, we don't have to forget about that. We can discuss about feminist politics, and we can discuss about a lot of stuff, but we have to knit together the idea of class, gender, race, because all the oppressions, we have to stick together and remember that as a person, we have a position in a society, and that position is very multiple, you know, and as groups, the same. Like, we cannot fight for one right and not the other one. Like what happened in the USA with the LGBT movement up to a certain point, that there was a gay rights movement and migrant trans women were very important in that movement, and then suddenly they were forgotten. And then they came back to being important in recent years, and now, again, that discussion is there, you know. I think this is a global scale thing that is going on, and we have to keep on imagining and building these worlds.